In July 1912, the New York Times announced that Pygmy hippopotamus is no longer a myth. A pair arrived at the Bronx Zoo to the amazement of visitors. These were the first to survive the trip out of Africa and thrive in captivity. It might be difficult to believe today with Moo Deng and other pygmy hippos on social media, but these are rarely seen animals. Pygmy hippos had actually been known to science for decades before their arrival in New York. First, there were the rumors, an account by C. E. Bidwell in 1839. It was easy for people to find the common hippo, which shows up in rivers across Africa, but the pygmy hippo is more elusive. They live a few miles into the forest, possibly in burrows that they dig along rivers. A Methodist mission doctor in Liberia, S.M.E. Goheen, collected skulls from humans and animals and sent them to Dr. Samuel Morton, an American. In 1844, Morton would identify a skull collected from the St. Paul's River in Liberia as a new species of hippopotamus. A live hippo from Little Scarcey's River was brought to Liverpool and then Dublin in 1873. To the disappointment of zoologists, the animal lived about 5 minutes. It was then stuffed and stored in the Trinity College Museum of Dublin, where it still is today. In the 1880s, Swiss zoologist Johann Bütikofer made 2 trips to Liberia to collect animals, including 3 pygmy hippos from around Hilltown, but he failed to capture any alive before returning to Europe in poor health. By 1897, zoos were eager to try again, with the London Zoo's wish list reportedly wanting both types of hippopotamus and a white rhino. The German wildlife trader Karl Hagenbeck believed the pygmy hippo was a dying species and decided to make another attempt in 1911. He sent the explorer Hans Schomburgk to follow Bütikofer's path up St. Paul's River in Liberia. Schomburgk described being intimidated by the request, in part because the region was found to be reeking with cannibals, in part having read that Bütikofer had worked with native hunters and not ever seen a live hippo himself. The trip would cost $12,000, which would be about $400,000 in today's money. When Schomburgk returned with the hippos 18 months later, the New York Zoological Society published a long travelogue with parts of the account appearing in the New York Times. When he had arrived in Monrovia, most people did not believe in a pygmy hippo of the forest. It was the rainy season. Schomburgk traveled to Shefflinsville and saw pygmy hippos, but resisted shooting. He wanted to capture one alive. Local hunters introduced him to their methods, pit traps, but there was so much rain everything was delayed, and the hippo escaped a pit. He returned in December to search the Lofa River in the dry season. He had built up a good reputation and brought food for 50 carriers, and presents for any tribal chiefs. Most of the place names that I read from Bütikofer and Schomburgk appear nowhere else. I believe that on his trip he went up to Yangaya in western Liberia, near what's today the Lofa Mano National Park. A photo from February 29, 1912 shows a hippo trapped in a pit. Once their hippos were captured, Schomburgk says that the Gola tribe refused to carry them. He describes arresting the tribe's chief and demanding they support him. Closer to Monrovia, he received support of the army and thanks Daniel Edward Howard, the president of Liberia. The hippos thrived in New York. The director said, "Never have we had any more satisfactory animals than those pygmy hippos. In appetite, health, and general deportment, they must be marked 100%. From then on, until trade was restricted in 1982, pygmy hippos were exported to zoos around the world. One of the most famous was Billy, a gift from Firestone of Firestone Tires, to President Calvin Coolidge. Billy is believed to be the common ancestor for almost all pygmy hippos in American zoos today. After Billy died in 1955, Liberia got word that the Smithsonian Zoo was looking for another. One was procured, and after several mishaps trying to ship hippos by air or freight, the zookeeper Charles Thomas flew to Monrovia and got the hippo its own room on the African Glade. During the 12-day voyage, he told the AP that after delivering the hippo, "I am going home to lock the door and stay there. I don't even want to go to the zoo." The airline might have been right to pass on the hippo. In 1966, a hippo bound for the Detroit Zoo broke out of his cage at the JFK airport, leading staff to call on the Bronx Zoo. They were warned not to approach this vicious animal. In the 21st century, there are around 300 hippos across 120 zoos and 3,000 in the wild. There has been renewed interest in the welfare of those wild pygmy hippos. The first one was captured on film in 2011. A BBC documentary from 2014 shows researchers' amazement to capture one on a trail camera. But we still know very little. Their population numbers and diet are estimated from their tracks and droppings. If you think back to Billy at the DC Zoo, captive hippos have a real population bottleneck. Zoos need to coordinate and maintain records to avoid inbreeding. A 2016 paper recommended collecting a DNA database because several hippos may have been captured from the same areas. The same problem may be an issue for the pygmy hippos left in the wild. They once had diversity over a wide range, and now the few thousand left are divided into multiple conservation parks. For other wild animals, such as the kiwi, researchers in conservation genetics have stepped in to swap members of isolated populations. Maybe the same will be needed for pygmy hippos to last in the wild. If that plan moves forward, it will be with the help of zoos. Moo Deng was born at a zoo in Thailand and became a viral success in 2024. Scientists are measuring her growth, preferred foods, and behaviors. Social media will coo over virtually anything that she does. This year, there was a new pygmy hippo born in Japan and one just last month in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Many more could be on the way. If you've seen Moo Deng or a hippo closer to you, be sure to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.